Representative Carr, you're recognized on item number 17, House Bill 42. Item 17, excuse me.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill prohibits the enforcement and prosecution of certain federal law and executive orders.
Motion's been made on the bill and it's been properly seconded.
Thank you, Leader Turner. Always there. I appreciate a motion and second. We have an amendment that has a severability clause, which I think is relevant to the overall position of the bill. If we could get that.
You got a motion and a second.
We have a motion. Thank you. Essentially, what we're doing is stipulating that the state of Tennessee has a right, by virtue of the Second Amendment, to, by virtue of federal law, statute, rule, regulation, or executive order, implement or execute, as of the effective date, those laws that shall be unenforceable, and then classify them as a Class A misdemeanor with regard to the Second Amendment. And pending discussion, I'll answer any questions.
Any questions on the bill? Oh, on the amendment.
The amendment is a severability clause. Basically, if any part of the bill is found to be...
Motion's been made on the amendment. It's properly seconded. Any questions on the amendment? I assume we're ready to vote on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. We're back on the bill as amended.
Essentially, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Go ahead.
We understand that we're pushing the envelope a little bit here. It's indeed.
Are you sure?
Yes, sir. We're pretty sure, but it's our intent to do that in some respects.
Why?
For two reasons. Number one, we feel like the Second Amendment is one of those rights granted to us by the Founding Fathers, and it specifically says the right to bear arms shall not be infringed. But I think the broader implication of the recent actions by those leaders out of Washington was not just to attack the Second Amendment, but was to attack the Bill of Rights. I believe, as many do, that the Bill of Rights is fundamental to the establishment of this country and why this country was established, to protect us from the tyranny of government. And I think in some respects we're seeing a tyranny coming from Washington that has nothing to do with the intent of our forefathers when they first penned those documents in the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights. And for that purpose, we're seeking to assert the sovereignty of this state as defined in the 10th Amendment.
Any questions? Representative Stewart, you're recognized. You're going to talk about nullification?
I'm not. I'm confused by the proposal, because it looks like what we're saying is that we're essentially trying to, maybe I am talking about nullification. It appears that you're saying that we should not enforce federal laws, etc. But federal statute, I mean, that's the law of the land, right? The people hand their democratic power over to their representatives, and then they vote, and then the law is created, the president signs it. That's the people's power expressed on a piece of paper. I don't know if you've noticed, but in this particular body, I'm occasionally on the losing side of some of these grand debates, but I do believe in it because I believe, even though people read Representative Lynn's blog more than mine at the moment, I'm not a blogger, but perhaps she can gather more votes, and I don't mean to single you out, in a philosophical debate than I can. That's good, because the people of Tennessee own this state, not me. And if they decide that a certain political philosophy goes, then that's their business, and certainly not mine. If I don't like that, I can go out and speak to them, and then I can try to change their minds. And, you know, to me, my concern is, aren't we throwing a wrench in these 200-year-old gears here? You know, at times I don't like what the people in Washington are doing. At other times, other people don't. Seems like, though, if they're exercising the people's power in a lawful way, we should not interfere with that process, because at the end of the day, my neighbor has as much right to decide what's going on in Washington as I do. What do you think about that?
I don't disagree with what you're saying. I guess what I'm seeing, or what I'm saying is the paralysis in Washington has persisted, I think everybody would agree, to a great effect over the last 3 or 4 years. Having said that, what we find is, as a result, that we have an executive branch that's issuing executive orders by which Congress seeks not to challenge those executive orders, which they have the authority to do so, as I understand it, because they're paralyzed. The problem or the challenge is the states are left with the results of that unchallenged or those unchallenged executive orders, that is Congress's right and authority to do so. And to your point about speaking the will of the public, that's what I'm attempting to do here.
Well, I guess what I would say, and I'll keep it brief, Mr. Chairman, is, you know, that used to be said, people complained and complained because Congress was unchangeable and you could never throw Congress out, and there was this Democratic majority and you could never get them out of there. And unfortunately, from my standpoint, they started to believe that same thing. One day they all woke up and they were no longer in office, and we found actually the people could speak, you know, and hearkening back. We've seen that over and over again. It takes a while, but the people do have their will enacted. I think we should have more confidence, and so my concern about your bill is I just feel, you know, we do have the best government that's ever existed on the face of the earth, and we should be very careful about tinkering with it. Understand it's well-intentioned, but I just don't think this is the right way to go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I assume the committee is ready to vote. All those in favor of the bill, sending it full committee, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Bill fails.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. I have